Mrs. Parsons here, 6th grade mathematics at what? 6th grade mathematics coming live from the West Platte Elementary School District, room 125. Hello, it's Tuesday, November the 10th, and today, 6th graders, Mrs. P is going to supply you with a video about adding and subtracting decimals. Now, this is actually a review again. You've added and subtracted decimals before, so I'm going to imagine this isn't going to be difficult for you, 6th graders, but I do want to remind you of a few things and to let you know the reason you might sometimes find it difficult in the 6th grade is everything we've already learned is put into adding and subtracting decimals. And that means if we've done exponents, you might see that in a problem where you're adding and subtracting decimals. If we've done finding area, you might find that in a problem where they want to find the perimeter of a figure and it might include decimals in it. So that's why you might find it difficult, but you can do it. You can do this process. So I want to start off with another big thing like I did yesterday, Monday, November the 9th, talking about decimals. One of the most important things, if not the most important thing you need to remember about decimals is this lovely word called place value. I feel like I should have a cape on. Maybe if I dressed up, then this would be more exciting for you. But so the most important thing about decimals is place value. And so 6th graders, at some point during this week, or maybe even on your own, maybe I'll make that an assignment for you to do. I'd love for you to make a place value chart for yourself. Just a simple number line, doing the decimals, finding your decimal. This is your and then going out, I'd say no more than 5 places. Go out 5 places to your right, 5 places to your left, and tell me what those place values are. That's the big thing about decimals. You really need to know that place value so that you can understand how the decimals are working together when you're adding them, subtracting them, multiplying them, and dividing them. So know your number line, your decimal number line. Know that this is the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths, the 10,000ths, the 100,000ths. This is the ones, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, the 10,000s, and so on and so on. Really get to know your decimal number line. It's very, as I say in class, importante. So we're going to talk about adding and subtracting decimals today. And it's really, I'm going to hope that it's going to be a real short video because it is a review concept for you 6th graders. And there's really only 2 really important things that you need to remember. One I just told you. Know your place value. You must know your place value, 6th graders. If you do not, make a place value chart. That way you can keep a hold of it, you can locate it, you can see it, and you can use it. So the second thing about adding and subtracting decimals that is importante is you must line up the decimals in your problems when adding and subtracting. This is the second important thing. Now, it shouldn't sound like something odd or strange to you coming from Mrs. Parsons, because I have told you many a times, 6th graders, that when you are adding and when you are subtracting, these are individual parts. These are individual parts. And that doesn't change just because you're going to add and subtract decimals. It's still individual parts. It's just now more individual parts. So example like whole number addition would be 7 plus 5. Well, you started adding that back in the 1st grade. You said 7, and then even if you use these things, you went 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You said it was 12. If you notice that, sixth graders, it's why lots of students start off using their fingers, even when you first come into school in grade K or first. Your teachers say, go ahead, use your fingers, because they're individual. Look, those are individual fingers, okay? So I went 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're individual numbers, individual parts. Even if, sixth graders, I change this to 73 plus 55, those are still individual numbers. 73 is its own number. $73, $55. They're individual numbers that we're going to put together. We're going to put the 73 and the 55 together. And I'm going to say, well, I got 5 ones and 3 ones. That's 8 ones. I got 5 ones and 7 ones. Even if I have to do this again, that's 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 12. So $73 and $55 is $128. Decimals aren't going to change that. Decimals don't change that. In the sense that if I put a decimal in that number now, I'm still going to add up 5 and 3, 5 and 7. The only difference is I'm now going to bring down that decimal into my sum or my difference, because it now has parts made out of tenths. I've got some wholes, and I now have some parts made out of tenths to the right. Anything to the right of that decimal is a part of a whole. Anything to the left of the decimal is a whole. So when you're adding and subtracting decimals, sixth graders, the note I just gave to you, line up the decimals in your problems when you're adding and subtracting decimals. When you do addition, sixth graders, of a problem, just say it's, I'm going to give you an example of 183 and 9 tenths. And I want to add that to 17 and 6 thousandths. So remember, read your words in math. Read it like it's language. It is. Read your numbers. Put it out into words. And then think about just lining these up and adding them together. What a lot of kids like to do is just start writing your numbers, 1, 8, 3, 9, and then line up the other numbers with it. But you want to make sure, sixth graders, that you have that decimal in place. So my decimal is in front of my 9 here. I'm now going to put my 17 and 6 thousandths there. But I'm always going to place the decimal. I usually just go ahead and say, place it first. Then put my 006 to the right of the decimal. Put my 17 wholes to the left. And add that up. I can pretend like that decimal's not there by putting placeholders behind the 9. Now the numbers look like they're the exact same length. And then I can go ahead and add it. 6, 0, 9. Decimal comes down. That's 10. I'm going to regroup because I do have to still regroup, ladies and gentlemen. 8, 9, 10. Regroup again. And it's 2. 200 and 906 thousandths. That is how I would say that number. 200 and 906 thousandths. And it's all based on the fact that I lined up the decimals. And here is why we have to do that. I'm still adding individual parts, sixth graders. I'm adding $183 to $17. I know that that's $200. I'm adding 9 tenths to 6 thousandths. I've got 9 tenths and 6 thousandths of a penny. So how much do I have altogether? I have 906 thousandths of a penny, because I still don't want to get rid of my 9 tenths, and I still have 6 thousandths of a penny. So I can put those things together, because those 9 dimes are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And then there is my 6 thousandths. So there's my 9 dimes, which is 90, and my 6 thousandths goes on the end of that. And so that is why I keep my decimals lined up, because I want to add these individual parts to the right, and I want to add these individual holes to the left. So I'm going to go back to that slide again, even though you might not be able to read my fancy writing. When you're adding and subtracting decimals, the most important thing to remember is to line up the decimal. No matter what the situation is, word problem, just a long problem that you have to write out yourself, always line up those decimals. Most important because you're looking at place value and individual parts. When you're adding and subtracting, you're adding and subtracting individual parts, sixth graders. So you want to always line up those decimals based on your place value. So I'm going to go through those 3 slides again and repeat that. When adding and subtracting, always line up your decimal. When adding and subtracting, always line up your decimal. Because when you're adding and subtracting individual parts based on your place value. Adding and subtracting, line up your decimals because you're adding and subtracting individual parts based on their place value. Those 3 things, if you can remember that forever and ever and ever, you'll never have problems with adding and subtracting decimals, 6th graders. So I'm going to do 2 more examples, one with addition and one with subtraction, so you can see how it works. And really, 6th graders, it is just like adding whole numbers, except you just want to make sure you place that decimal into your mathematics problem, because when you have a decimal in an addition or subtraction problem, your sum and your difference need to have the decimals put in them because of parts, wholes and parts of wholes. So let's do one. Let's do, and I like writing 6th graders horizontally first. That way then you have to write them vertically so that you remember to line up the decimal. So I'm going to say 9 and 300ths plus 783 thousandths. So I've got 9 and 300ths plus 783 thousandths. I know that is 9 and 300ths because that ends in the 100th spot. I know this is 7 and 83 thousandths because it ends in the 1,000th spot. I'm now going to write it out. 9 and 300ths. I know, 6th graders, when I get down here with my answer, I'm going to have a 9, I hope, right? Because I'm going to have at least 9, because that 9's right there, and it's a whole, so I better have at least 9. I could have more if my numbers over here make a 1. If my parts over here are big enough to make another 1, I could have more than 9, but I know right now I'm going to at least have 9. I'm going to go ahead and line up my decimals. That's always the first thing I do. I just line up the decimals. Then I take my number of 783 thousandths. 6th graders, when we're adding, it's okay if there's not a number there. I can add and there not be a number there. I just go 3, 11, regroup, 1 and 7 is 8, and my 9 is going to stay because I didn't have enough over here to make another whole. I didn't have enough parts to make another whole. So that's adding decimals. Parts, wholes, separated by this lovely thing called a decimal. Right, left. Now let's do the reverse of that. Let's do a subtraction one. Let me see if I have another blank page. Nope. Subtraction. So now I'm going to do a subtraction problem, 6th graders. Let's do, how about 15 and 8/10 minus, let's do, how about I just do 931 thousandths. Okay? So I've got 15 and 8/10 minus 931 thousandths. Again, I'm going to line them up. So I line up my wholes. There's my decimal and my 8/10. I know I'm going to use subtraction. And the first thing I'm going to do again is line up that decimal. There it is. And then I'm going to put my 931 thousandths behind that decimal, making sure I lined up their place value. There is nothing here, and there's nothing here. But I want to line them up, sixth graders, to where they match. Here's my decimal. So my 9 and 8 here have to be lined up. There's nothing here, but I just let my 3 and my 1 come right behind my 9. And then I want to subtract. Well, sixth graders, you know, right? We're going to say yes, Mrs. P. We know that when we are subtracting, we must do stuff like regrouping. You like to call it carrying and borrowing. We're really regrouping, especially in addition. In subtraction, you do want to come over here and you are borrowing, but you're never going to give it back. So we just say we're going to regroup that. So when we look at this number, sixth graders, we have our decimal lined up. These are our parts. These are our wholes. But we notice there's no thousandths to take away from. So we have to create that thousandths. And a lot of times we just like to start by putting zeros there. But we always must remember, I can't take anything from nothing. I'm going to repeat that. I can't take anything from nothing. I can't take this 1 from nothing. So if there is nothing in that place, I have to create something in that place. And to do that, I have to go all the way over until I finally find something I can borrow from or regroup from. And in this case, I can regroup from that 8. I can turn that 8 into a 7, and I've taken 1 away from it. But actually, sixth graders, I took a whole 10. So I'm going to put that 10 now over here. That still doesn't help me over here. I still can't take 1,000 from nothing. So I'm going to regroup again, and I'm going to take one of those 10s away, leaving it to be 9. And I'm going to take that 10, and I took that 10, I turned it into 100 pennies. I took that 100 pennies, and I'm going to turn it into 1,000 little pieces of Abraham Lincoln's nose. Now, sixth graders, I can go ahead and do my subtraction here because I have something to take 1 away from. I'm going to take that 1,000ths from that 10,000ths, and it's going to leave me 9. I can take my 300ths from my 900ths, and it's going to leave me 6. I then get to my 9, and wait. I can't take 9 from 7. I can't take 9 pennies or 9 dimes from 7 dimes. So I'm going to have to regroup again. And it doesn't matter if the decimal's there. I can come over here and take a whole from that, leave that to be 4 wholes, and now that whole just turned into 10 dimes again. I just turn it into 10 dimes. So instead of having 7 dimes, I now have 17 dimes there. Can I take 9 dimes from 17 dimes? I certainly can. It is 8. I don't have anything here, so I'm just going to bring down my 4. I don't have anything here, so I'm just going to bring down my 1. But I'm never going to forget that I still have to bring down this decimal because these are my parts and these are my wholes, and this is the answer to my difference problem. And with that being said, that's it. I'm going to finish this bad boy under 20 minutes again. I hope I got to talk in 60 seconds. Sixth graders, that's just a quick review. Hopefully some new information from Mrs. P about parts and wholes and why you line up that decimal. Maybe some new information about regrouping and how to do that. And remember, 3 important things, right? Line up the decimal. Why? When we're adding and subtracting individual parts. And those individual parts are based on their place value when we use a decimal number line. With that being said, Mrs. P's all done. I'm going to be out of here, well, at least until Wednesday. I hope you have a great Wednesday, November the 10th, great Tuesday, November the 10th. I'll see you on Wednesday, November the 11th, sixth graders. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to email me and ask away. I'm always here. Have a great day.